So this tutorial is going to extend some of the things you can do with basic tweens using Adobe Animate and or Flash. They work exactly the same way. So we're going to start off by opening a new file, which is going to be an ActionScript 3 file. Make sure you get that right. And then you'll see I'm going to change my layout again because I don't like it like this. So workspace, I'm going to make it as classic because I like my main tools over on the left hand side of the screen, and I like the timeline on the top. It's completely up to you what you do with that. You don't have to do it. So first of all, we're going to make just simply going to make a rectangular shape, and it's blue. It doesn't have any kind of stroke on it. And then we're going to simply create a tween, just to remind you what we did before. So I'm going to go to about frame 25. I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to have to use FN and then F5. If you're using a PC, it's just F5. And then Control right click, create a classic tween, and that is your beginning point. And then your end point, they say your beginning point is where the keyframe is, the end point hasn't got a keyframe, but I'm going to put a keyframe in it, so that's FN and then F6 or just F6. So as you can see, if I scrub the playhead back to the beginning, nothing happens, but I could move it, so let's just move it so you can see. And then I'm going to do Command Enter, Control Enter on a PC to test the movie. So as you can see, it loops, so it's playing through all of those 25 frames and then looping back to frame 1. So I might decide that that's way too long. If I do decide that's way too long, if I hit FN again, and then I can extend, I can slow it down by adding more frames. So I'm going to do that because we're going to do a few more things. Okay, there we go. So what we're also going to do is I'm going to show you how you can tween colour as well. So at the beginning we start off at blue, the screen starts blue. If I hit it, if I'm going to go about halfway through the animation, and I can put another keyframe in there. You can add as many keyframes as you want. Don't forget, keyframes denote change really. So anywhere during your animation you can add changes. And then I'm going to simply select my blue rectangle, which is there. It's got the little registration point in the middle of it. And then I'm going to go to the color effects in the properties. Let's not now install something. So in the properties inspector of this object, there are various things. It's a graphic, so there are some color effects I can add to it. So one of them is tint. So if I simply change that, let's change it to green. And then when I scrub back from the beginning, you can see that that gradually goes from blue to green. And then you'll see that it does also go back to blue again because I've only changed the colour of it there, green. There we go. So that's one thing you can do. I'm going to add another one, and then I'm going to add a circle this time just to be different. And I'm going to change the colour of it. Let's make it red. So I'm going to put that underneath. It's on a different layer though. Make sure you put it on a different layer, because if you don't, it will animate in the same way that the other one has animated, or it might even break your animation that you've already made. So just keep everything on different layers. So once again, Command right click, Control right click even, create a classic tween, and there's our timeline that's now gone purple with little dots on it. We've got the beginning of the animation but not the end. You can build the animation wherever you like. I'm going to put the first keyframe in there, so FN F6, and I think I am going to I'm going to move it so that it's in line roughly with where that blue square is above it. And then let's drag it all the way to the end, and then I'm going to put a keyframe FN F6 at the end, and then what I'll do is drag it all the way over to there. So one thing we can do with this is we can make it appear and disappear by using the alpha on it. So what I could do is on the final frame I can turn the alpha all the way down to 0. So what happens is it starts off, let's play it. So Control Enter, Command Enter. So the other one's changing colour. They're both going at the same speed. They're both following the same animation, really. One of the other things you can do, which can be quite useful, is to do something called a shape tween. And shape tween, I'm going to do another one for this. A shape tween has to be a real shape. So in this case, what we'll do is, again, I've made a new layer, and I'm going to make a circle again. Let's change this colour of it. So it's over in the Properties Inspector. At any moment you can change the colour of it, make it kind of a dark pink colour. And then instead of making a classic tween, what we're going to do, anywhere on the timeline, Control right click. This time you might have noticed that there are different kinds of tweens. So we're going to create a shape tween. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to morph that tween. So the shape tween is going to end here. So I'm going to do that F6 thing again. And then you can see that if I just turn these two off, so we can concentrate on this one shape, you can see actually by default it will make it selected. You don't want it to be selected, because if we zoom in on it, you'll see that when I mouse over this shape, it changes. I've showed you this in class. It changes to a little curve, and that means that I can then do things to this shape. And you have to be, so what we can do, let's try and make it a bit more square. Oops, I moved it, so I'm going to undo that. It's really easy to select it by mistake. And you can really change this however you'd like. So let's just change it to that, and then I'm going to play you it. So Command Enter. And you can see that that shape is tweening. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to show you how you can do it wrong and how it gets messed up. So what you can't do, you can only tween shapes. That's the first thing to know. And you mustn't, I can't remember how to, there we go. So I'm going to zoom out again a bit. So if we've got a shape, you can't flip a shape over itself. So let's draw another one here. Again, I've got it on a different layer. And I'm going to actually put a stroke on it, because I think the strokes do mess it up. Actually, we can't put a stroke on it like that. What we'll do is we'll use the ink bottle tool, and we'll get, I think we should actually put a black stroke on it. There we go. So then if I then select that stroke, I can make it a bit bigger. Again, in the Properties Inspector, there we go. Oop, that didn't get go in time. Let's make a big one. Okay, and so we've got a stroke on it. Now, you have to be really careful. So again, come up, Control anywhere, and create a shape tween. And then what we'll do is we'll put the keyframe at the end, so FN F6, and then let's do that. So let's do that, and then I'm actually gonna fold it in on itself. And then see it's already messed up. Let's see if we can fold it. And perhaps if I move it as well, oops, get everything and then move it. Let's see what happens to that. And it works perfectly well, of course. It's only really when you flip it over itself like that it might, yeah, it goes. You can see on this one, it gets really muddled up and just makes a big mess of an animation. So you can, although you can, as we saw on this one, although you can shape tween, you have to be really, really careful with it that you don't fold it in on itself. So let's have a look at that one. So you can see this one is now behaving perfectly well. That one's not so much. But it does look like they keep changing this in Animate. So let's just have a quick look a bit more clearly at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this and see whether if I also move that shape, if that's going to mess it up. Nope, you can move it as well. So shape tweens do include motion tweens as well. So you can move them so they can move along the same way. So just to sum up, we've got a shape tween going wrong to show you that that you need to be really careful about it. We've got the blue rectangle changing colour, and that's also on a tween. And we've also got the red ball that's fading out to nothing. So just to continue on this same line, it might be that, as you can see, you've got all of these all starting on frame 1. It might be that you actually want that one not to start until frame 10. And so the rule is on these timelines is that if there's nothing there, there's nothing on the stage. And then it appears, you can see it appears there. No, I don't want that one because I don't like it because it's gone wrong. So I'm going to delete it. And let's turn these ones back on again. And let's play those. There we go. So that should help you to figure out at least how to do shape tweens, and in conjunction with movement, you can still use them when you're moving things around. And then where things go on the timeline will depend where they start to appear or disappear. So you can see I'm just I can drag out these keyframes like this. I'm dragging that one so that it goes longer, it will last longer. So you can, if you're unsure about where things need to appear or disappear, you can line them up really easily on the timeline just by moving your keyframe around. So you know that if you want that one to appear, if you want the pink ball to appear at frame 20, then make sure that you've just dragged that keyframe out to frame 20. And obviously you can see that I'm getting a step appearance, so that there's one step here, there's the first step, so it appears a bit later. And then, as you can see, when we get to frame 51, everything else disappears, and the reason for that is there's nothing on the timeline. If you want them to stay there, you just simply add some more frames. So I'm going to add just a frame, which is FN, which is in my case FN, and then F5, and then they stay there. Or in the case of the red ball, it doesn't really stay there because we've made it invisible, although it is actually still there. So hopefully this will help you a little bit with being able to extend some of the things you've already learned. And I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you. Bye.